The Giza Pyramid Complex is located on the Giza Plateau, west of the Nile River, about 13 kilometers from modern Cairo. The area is in the lower Nile Valley, one of the most fertile lowlands in the world. Archaeologists and geologists have found that the Giza Plateau was once a humid area with a system of watercourses and ports connected to the Nile. Researchers from Aix-Marseille University in France and Paris-Saclay University have studied the remains and waterways and found a branch of the Nile called the Khufu branch, which flowed near the pyramids at that time. One important piece of evidence supporting the pyramids not being in the middle of a desert is the discovery of ancient ports near the pyramids, particularly in Wadi al-Jarf on the coast of the Red Sea, where a travel log by a foreman named Mera recorded that he and his team transported limestone from Tura to the pyramids via waterways. There are also shipyards and waterways that extend closer to the pyramids than previously thought. Egyptian and French archaeologists have found canals and embankments were dug to allow ships to approach the site of the pyramids directly. Such construction required enormous resources of water and labor that could not be obtained from bare desert. About 4,500 years ago, the Earth was at the end of a minor ice age, when the climate in North Africa was much wetter than it is today. What is now the Sahara Desert used to be grassland, lakes, and seasonal rainfall. Climatologists have found that temperatures were not as high as they are today when the pyramids were built, and there were many natural sources of water. With vegetation and water, it was not surprising that permanent settlements and cities were established here. So it is not surprising that the ancient Egyptians chose this area to build important monuments such as the pyramids. There is ample evidence that the area around the pyramids was a lively community, not a barren desert. Archaeologists have found numerous labor villages, along with storerooms, bakeries, breweries, and housing for laborers and engineers. Researchers believe that these laborers were farmers and seasonal workers. When the Nile flooded agricultural areas, they took over the construction work, meaning that the area must have had enough water and other resources to feed thousands of people. Over the millennia, the Earth's climate became increasingly arid, especially in North Africa, which was affected by the equatorial movement of rainfall. The rains decreased and the Sahara Desert continued to expand. The area that used to be grassland and canals gradually dried up into a desert. The water sources that used to nourish the pyramids, such as the Khufu branch, dried up, leaving only the remains of canals and silt today. The image of the pyramids in the desert has become a cultural icon of Egypt in the modern world, in many photographs, postcards, movies, and documentaries. In particular, the camera angles taken from the west or south, where there are no buildings blocking the view of the pyramids. But the angles facing east show the enormous metropolis of Cairo stretching to the horizon. This leads many to mistakenly believe that the pyramids are far from the city or in the middle of the desert. But in fact, the pyramids are closer to the city and the Nile River than we think. The Great Pyramid of Giza was not built in the middle of a desert, but on a site near the fertile Nile River, with a water system and shipping routes, a nearby community of workers, and a geographical context that is very different from what we see today. Understanding that the pyramids were not in the middle of a desert in the past helps us to see more clearly the capabilities of ancient Egyptian civilization in terms of engineering, urban planning, and resource management, and helps to dispel stereotypes. Deserts and camels that often obscure deep historical complexities.